Okay, it looks like it's recording. So we went over this. One of the things, and I'm going to check your books hopefully tomorrow, or maybe if you guys don't have any work on the weekend, I might collect all your workbooks on tomorrow and then look over them during the weekend. But anyways, you should have done a third figure, label it C, and you should have rotated it 100 degrees. And I think several of you, or most of you, did that. I'm looking at page 14 here. It says, how did you make that move? Again, we briefly talked about this yesterday. And some of these moves are not rotations and translations where you just sliding the figure. There's a new move, and it said if it's a new move to label it new move in A through E down here. Okay. Next page, page 15. You'll need this information, and you'll have to condense it. But they talk about a translation. You guys understand that a translation is just sliding a figure to a different location on the plane. You guys understand what a rotation is now, where you're rotating the figure a certain number of degrees. And they give you an example here of, well, this one could be, oh, wait a second here. I think they talked about it. Yeah, a rotation could be clockwise, or it could be counterclockwise. And hopefully everybody understands what that means. It's if it's clockwise, it's going in the directions of the hands on an old clock. How many of you, I'm curious, just occurred to me, because so many students nowadays, they can't read like the clock on the wall right there. You sort of can. Most of you, it's just digital, right? You just look at the numbers on your phone. What's that? All right. Now, okay, so some of you can't, but anyways, so clockwise, counterclockwise. The last one they mention here is reflection, and they describe what that is. And a reflection, and they talk about it's a mirror image or a backwards copy of the, oh, thank you. Put up 10 points. Backwards copy of the original figure. So here's what I did. And this is important when you guys do a reflection. You can see my transparent paper that I've used, and I traced figure A. Now, what's important here, when you do a reflection, you have to have a line that you reflect it across. So if when I do that, if it's done properly and you're copying somebody else's reflection, my line here will fall on the dotted line. It's going to reflect to the same spot. Now, if you don't consider what you're reflecting across, so if I, let's say, reflected it, let's say I had a line right here and I reflected it this way, you can see it's in a different location. So whenever you do a reflection, you have to have a line that you reflect it across. Otherwise, everybody's going to have a different answer. Okay, so keep that in mind that when you're doing reflections. Now, on page 16 here, it's asking you to write your own definition, clockwise corresponding, and they give you the definition of corresponding there. I'm not going to read it to you. You guys aren't second grade anymore. Counterclockwise image, and they give you the definitions. They're in bold. And then finally on page 17, they talk about reflections, rotations, and translations, and you guys are familiar with those already. Again, put your own definition briefly in a sentence in each one of those spots. All right, page 18, it says practice problems. And it says each of the 6 cards shows a shape. And then they ask you some questions. Which pair of cards show a shape and its image? The image would be the second image after a rotation. You guys all know what a rotation is by now. Then it says which pair of cards show a shape and its image after a reflection. And we just talked about a reflection. So they've given you 6 choices here. I think you guys could probably easily figure that out. Down to the bottom, the 5 frames show a shape's different positions. And at the top of the page 19, It says describe how the shape moves to get from its position in each frame. So the way I would do this, just so it's kind of clear, I would just write, so from frame 1, I'll just draw a little arrow to 2 and then write my description. And then from 2, I'll draw a little arrow to 3 and write my description. So I'm looking to see if they're just translated, slid somewhere, if they've been rotated clockwise or counterclockwise. And some of these, I'll just say this, if some of these are being rotated, you can easily see if it's 90 degrees or maybe 180 degrees. I mean, you can put that if you want. It's probably a good idea to start thinking about how many degrees it was rotated. And I'm not looking, I mean, if you're off a few degrees, I'm not going to worry about it. And they're not asking you to be specific in your answers. But if it's obviously 90 degrees, just right. It was rotated 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise or whatever it was. Questions on this so far, anybody? No? Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have a book.
Okay, I'll get you one. Okay. All right. Number 3 here, it says the rectangle seen in frame 1 is rotated to a new position seen in frame 2. So I got my transparent paper here and I just kind of slid it over here and thought about it rotating. And if I just kind of rotate it, I'm going counterclockwise. Yeah, I mean, if this would be what? How many degrees would this have been rotated? 90. So it's about halfway, right? Well, what's half of 90? 45. As I look in my book here, I don't see any that say 45, but 40 is pretty close. So I'm thinking that probably one of these might be the correct answer. But it says select all, so I have a feeling there's more than one correct answer to number 2 here. All right. And look at that. We're done. All right. And let me, how much time? So I'm under 10 minutes, so that's pretty good. Anybody absent today?
No.
Everybody's here? Okay, cool. All right, so I'll stop it here.